All right, so Tesla AI is really kind of the topic of the day. And where is AI going with Tesla's development? A lot has been happening. We're going to try to break that down today. My name is Paul Barron. This is TechPath. And really, the idea behind what Elon has been talking about over the past few months has been kind of this evolution of Dojo. And Dojo, for those of you who maybe do not understand, it's basically Tesla's supercomputer that eventually will be doing neural net training for a lot of the autonomy and FSD development that Tesla is involved in. So there has been some speculation as to whether or not AI would be, being advanced. We're going to break that down today and kind of give you the full insight. This is basically one of those market movers that we do. So the way a market mover works is we break down some of the data, our research, and then some speculation findings, kind of compile that all together and give you guys a result. And hopefully it's going to give you some information on maybe how to either invest in the company, research it if you're looking at maybe learning more about what's happening with that company. That's how they work. Remember that these are not investment advice. Basically, this is an educational and research package that is based on our own findings and options. We're not a financial advisor, and of course, highly recommend you do your own research and your due diligence on any kind of investment that you're making, whether you do that public or private. Let's kind of move into the elements I'm going to cover today, and that is AI Day and what it means. We'll go into FSD, full self-driving, slowing or massive update. Is that potentially occurring? Where could AI as a service go, and then also job developer needs and what kind of clues could be pointing in a direction that could indicate where Tesla is moving with AI in terms of the development. The first thing I want to jump to is Elon's affirmation tweet of whether or not an AI day would actually happen. There's now been several reports on this. Rob Maurer from Tesla Daily, of course, along with many others, have kind of went in and really looked to what is Elon up to in terms of launching an AI day. So essentially this was a direct tweet out to Elon. He basically fired back and says, listen, AI day is probably going to happen in late July. So that's basically Elon affirming that we're going to have an AI day. That's going to be the face of things. The other thing is the development of Dojo. We've talked about this recently on this channel. If you have not checked out the video with me and Warren Redlick, make sure and jump in and learn a little bit more about it, because we go into Dojo and what it is and all about what its potential is. But this news right here from Teslarati was really great. Basically, Tesla released a patent last month that suggests the company has developed a system using two neural networks to gauge objects' distances using only image data. This is a pretty massive update in terms of a patent and also technology. Now, to do dual neural networks, one as a learning playground, one as an adaptive playground, the ability for that to happen is going to require an absolute, tear on a supercomputer. And that is really what Dojo is being built for. So it looks as though, when you look at this tweet, from Elon, which is kind of interesting. Tesla is developing a neural net training computer called Dojo to process the truly vast amounts of our video data. It's a beast. Please consider joining our AI. So he's trying to get, developers to come over and start working on this platform. So it's a real thing. We are going to see a lot of what's happening around Dojo, and also whether or not. And here's my question: is are they racing to get Dojo in place to kind of adapt to what some of the potential challenges that maybe they're dealing with on full self-driving and full autonomy? Here's the reason I say that, because if you look at Elon and his, even though it is Elon time, but if you look at his statements last year, we anticipated that we were going to see full self-driving by the end of 2020. Full self-driving, FSD, end of 2020. Remember, he's been selling this product for years on these cars, where people have been paying as low as probably around $5,000, and now it's up to $10,000, and we still don't have the product. Now, granted, the beta is out there to about 2,000 beta testers, and the claim in early this year was that Elon was going to basically drop the FSD program into full public beta by Q2. That is where we are now. It's April. We are seeing some indications now that he's talking about June as the potential for dropping the full self-driving. Here's kind of where I am on this, because I'm a little bit of a little bit more. I won't say I'm not a Tesla bull, but I'm definitely a Tesla lover. I drive one. I'm invested fully. Full disclosure, I'm invested in the company, and I do believe, and I have a high conviction of what they're trying to do is right. Now, the question is, and I always challenge this on any founder, and you have to understand, just before we get into a lot of this tech detail, my background has been in technology for over 2 decades. I started my career in education in computer science. Actually, that is my background, is computer science and engineering, and consumer science, which essentially is algorithms today. That was what I went to school for. Then I went to work for Microsoft, and basically that's what I did. I managed developers, hired developers, and we worked worldwide on developing a system called Windows. So I understand a lot about where the development mind goes. So Elon essentially is in that state right now in which they are at a full breakneck pace to get this product out. And I understand that, you know, everybody wants to go out with V1, V2, and just start dropping updates. The problem is most software does not affect human life. Full self-driving is a human life affecting software, and it's a big one. This is my situation right now. Is FSD in trouble? So 1, it's slow to release. 2, you start to see things like this happen, where we see a vehicle that basically killed 2 people in Texas. This is recent. This was potentially an autopilot use case where people appeared to be in the back seat of the vehicle. I want to cut to the video of this and kind of turn away, but I wanted to kind of give you the basis of what this crash means to FSD. Let's cut to that.
2 U.S. agencies on Monday said they were investigating Saturday's Tesla crash in Texas that left 2 dead, a crash which local police said appeared to have occurred with no one in the driver's seat. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board both said they would investigate the crash. According to local media reports, the 2019 Tesla Model S was traveling at high speed near Houston when it failed to round a curve and went off the road, crashing into a tree and bursting into flames. After the fire was extinguished, authorities located 2 occupants in the vehicle, with one in the front passenger seat and the other in the back seat of the Tesla. The crash occurred as scrutiny is increasing over Tesla's semi-automated autopilot driving system following recent crashes. Senator Richard Blumenthal, a Democrat, wrote on Twitter that, quote, "Using Tesla's driverless system or any other shouldn't be a death risk. Advancements in driving technology must first and foremost be safe."
All right, so you can kind of see this is a problem for Tesla. This, you know, we're dealing with a lot of pressures, not only from the public to get the product out because they've paid a lot of money for it, as well as the Tesla bulls who want to get the product in their vehicles to try it and really kind of go to that next level. Then you have the whole pressure from stocks and investors and the market itself that's basically kind of put Tesla up on this pedestal that says, you know, this is the company that's going to solve self-driving and autonomy and all that. When you look at that and then you look back at regulatory, like for instance with Senator Blumenthal, the regulatory aspect of this could become pretty big. We do see states that have already approved full self-driving vehicles. Florida is one of them. You can actually operate a fully autonomous vehicle in the state of Florida today if you had one. And they're going to really kind of pave the way for this kind of evolution and also this technology to take place. So I think that when you look at the scenario, there's a lot of things circling around. Now, granted, there's a lot of people who are defending Tesla right now saying this is the typical situation where full self-driving, and this is why they're doing such a limited release on beta, up to 2,000 drivers, and you have to go through so much rigorous testing to even get access to it. You have to like almost go through not a driving report, but they actually ask your driving history, things of that nature. Here's the thing, most drivers are not level 5. I could say that very few drivers are level 5. And Warren and I talk about this a lot. Warren Reddick, he kind of goes in. If you haven't checked out his channel, check it out. Warren Reddick out there on YouTube. He talks about this a lot, is that a lot of human drivers are not advanced drivers to where they could navigate difficult situations in traffic and end up, which is why we have a lot of automotive crashes due to human error and a scenario where there's been just a mistake and someone dies for it. That is not necessarily the fault of the car maker because the human is in control. But what happens when the robot is in control? AI is in control. At that point, the changing of the guard occurs, and the ability for Tesla to be at fault here could be a huge potential issue in the future. Now, I think that I look on the cup as half full side of things. I think that Tesla is actually in the throes of developing a breakthrough. And I think what's happening right now with the slowing of FSD and its release and the potential launch, the launch of the AI Day, here are the reveals that I think are going to happen. Dojo's going to get launched. That's going to be reveal number 1. The neural net advanced training is going to get released. That's the dual neural net training network that essentially will ramp up the speed in which training of AI can be handled. AI camera integration and 3D translation will begin for an AI in the car to learn and apply real-world changes to the environment. This is a little different because right now you have to know that the camera system within a Tesla today is basically digesting all that information into the neural net, and it's trying to react on it in real time. When you have a supercomputer that can go back to these almost billions of miles of data, remember that every Tesla is collecting data on its traffic and your driving habits. All that's being piped up to the cloud, and Dojo eventually will have access to that kind of data. So it's essentially going to assimilate all that in. It's going to learn from every piece of information, and then as full self-driving gets rolled out, dual neural nets will start to appear. And at that point, and I'll talk a little bit about how that's going to work and potentially how that could play into where are the future of AI going. Back to the list. Slowdown of FSD could be a bigger sign of a breakthrough. That goes back to my point. I think they're slowing it down because they have something that they're close on that could become a huge, huge innovation for full self-driving and could eliminate these kinds of things, because the scenario is this right now with these beta operations is you cannot put it in hands. A beta product cannot go in the hands of irresponsible adults or anyone that's not willing to take it very seriously, and especially when you have a car in the mix traveling at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. So all those kind of things are really serious. The other thing is 10.0 FSD could release in July, just after an FSD full release. Full integrations around spatial needs from robotic applications, which is where I think this is going. Dojo could play a big role in this with a full library of data to comb through. Basically, it's going to take all the data it's got from spatial camera recordings that come through general FSD and advanced autopilot and autopilot, which is available today in the Tesla cars. And it's going to process all that. And I think we're going to see quantum leaps in Dojo and its ability to become basically the neural net training ground for FSD. So potential of Tesla AI might be a new platform that could replace all we know around AI. My guess is that they've discovered a full version breakthrough, and they are about to move in this position. Here's my question. You've discovered something, maybe through developers and the evolution of software. Listen, I've done it. When we were building Windows, we were discovering things in how our software would work all the time. It was big breakthroughs on being able to implement it in certain kind of hardware, big breakthroughs on software. You would have engineers that, remember that most of the time you're working in engineering pods that are running simultaneously, that don't know what another engineering pod is doing. So they're kind of competing to get to 0 or to get to 1, whichever binary equation they're trying to reach first. And a lot of times those breakthroughs start to really ramp up, and you see things happen very quickly. You throw a supercomputer and or an AI modeling computer into the mix and this thing starts to really move, now you have something. Here's the question. With what we know about AI, general artificial intelligence today, and what it could mean, I always kind of reference back to Elon and where he's talked about AI in the future. He's done this on the Rogan podcast. He's done this on several conferences. I want to cut to a clip that he did in a conference in Dubai on his placement of where AI was and kind of how it would transition society. Take a look.
I think the first bit of advice would be to really pay close attention to the development of artificial intelligence. I think we need to just be very careful in how we adopt artificial intelligence and to make sure that researchers don't get carried away. Because sometimes what happens is a scientist can get so engrossed in their work, they don't necessarily realize the ramifications of what they're doing. So I think it's important for public safety that governments keep a close eye on artificial intelligence and make sure that it does not represent a danger to the public. But what to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary.
So it means that unemployed people will be paid across the globe.
Yeah.
Because there is no job, machine, robot is taking over.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
Okay.
That's simply and I want to be clear that these are not things that I think that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen.
All right, so you can kind of see Elon's intrepidness here, both cautiously and forward-thinking. And my theory here is that there's two camps here. One is Elon, early on in AI development, was pushing back, DeepMind, which is Google, pushing back on AI in general and decided, hey, listen, if you can't beat them, you've got to join them. So we need to ramp up Dojo and really ramp up full autonomy. Or Elon has all along fully been aware that AI is eventually going to be an issue, whether we see it as an issue that is a detriment to society or that it's potentially solving problems in the near future. So I don't want to get into speculatory land because you can really go a long way with this because we're really talking about maybe 10 years, possibly 20, depending on how fast. But here are some things that could be what-if scenarios. And I want to kind of run through one of these. First is if a dual neural net is being advanced for training, this would enable a compounded data set to essentially learn from real-world environments. Now, I don't mean just automobiles, okay? There's something out there that's called the Kalman theory. Now, the Kalman theory, if you look, is basically a statistics and a control theory that is known for linear quadratic estimation. This is LQE. Actually, we've used this. I remember using this back in the day. This is taught in general mathematics and engineering for the past 2 decades. This is an algorithm that basically uses a series of measurements observed over time containing statistical noise and other inaccuracies and produces estimates of unknown variables that tend to be more accurate than those based on a single measurement alone by estimating joint probability distribution over. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is it takes a situation like an environment in full self-driving. It analyzes, much like the human brain, and it starts to predict what could happen. You're driving along, a cat is over on the side of the road, could come into the road, unlikely, but because of his trajectory, might, pose a threat. All of that's being computed and dealt with in our human brain. And with the Kalman theory, basically an algorithm could look at predictive measurements that would look at what we know of things that are happening in full self-driving. We'll just use full self-driving because there's other applications here. And what we don't know, but what could happen. So this is the whole point of when you're driving or when you're doing anything that is a technical behavior in any kind of walk of life. All these kinds of things, whether you're a doctor, an engineer, you're a video editor, all these different things, it doesn't matter. The point is that AI could get to a point where it's taking what is known and then taking what is what if and applying it into random thought that gets implemented into basically a software application that becomes a smarter AI. So that's the scenario that you have to look at when, and you want to know, well, okay, well, why does this Kalman filter, why do we care about this, right? Why do we care about the Kalman filter? Well, here's why we care about it. Tesla is hiring engineers. Okay, here's an engineering post right here. Software engineer, computer vision, and AI. This is a role at the Palo Alto location. It's full-time. You can get in there, and these are the kind of jobs that are available at Tesla all the time. But here's the interesting thing in the AI tech stack. If you get into the requirements for this job, I want you to look at what I've underlined here. Familiarity with core problems in robotics, including state estimation, Kalman filter, particle filter, and SLAM. SLAM is signal processing. Basically, it's spatial design engineering. I know this is getting really technical. The point is that the engineers that he's hiring are working on theory sets that would set AI literally quantum leaps ahead if you had the power of a dojo or a supercomputer. Here's simultaneous localization and mapping. This is SLAM. What I've highlighted there under SLAM is very interesting. Algorithms tailored to available resources, hence not aimed at perfection, but also operational compliance. This is going into self-driving cars, unmanned aerial vehicles, autonomous underwater, planetary, rovers, domestic robots, and here's the last one, inside the human body. Okay, so now we really get into what could AI mean, because if we develop an AI application that has the ability to look at the what-if scenarios, then AI becomes a product that is a service to the rest of the world. Dojo could be a product once it solves full self-driving, because a supercomputer with basically AI intellect that's going at this level of pace with the kind of engineers we're talking about is going to solve this in a handful of years. What's it going to do next? It's got to do something. It's not just going to sit there. It's going to continue to learn, continue to evolve. Its next will be moving into everything from logistics, medical, you name it, engineering, automotive will be one of the bare basic limitations that it will solve. And I want to get into that, but the point is that this could become AI software as a service to the rest of the world, and Tesla becomes what they really are, which is not a car company. What they really are is an AI company. Now let's get into FSD acceptance and adoption. So, and the reason this is important is because this is the one thing that's out there close to the population today that is close to real AI. It's the one thing we can experience when you drive your Tesla. I drive mine, you pop it on autopilot, the thing drives you across down I-95 here better than you can, all right, in full traffic. And I'm amazed by it. It's error-free, it's efficient, it's dealing with braking, traffic pattern, it's doing the whole thing, and it's autopilot. So you have to look at that and say, all right, well, if that is happening, what's the acceptance rate of full self-driving? So let's look at some of this data. This was pulled from about 12,000 respondents from Tesla owner clubs and Tesla interest areas on social. And essentially, it's 68.3% of owners said they would pay for full self-driving. So that was the first question. Will people pay for this? It sounds like we will. But I was still a little bit surprised that it was that low, because this is all Tesla owners that would pay for that. Consumers want AI and robotaxi. 29.4% want full robotaxi. Very low, much lower than I thought it would be. 52.9% prefer to wait for safety performance. So they're willing to try it. Probably the early adopters, like I would try it, but many people will be looking for safety performance ratings coming back from robotaxi, which I think is a problem for Tesla in the robotaxi theory, which goes into ARK Investments analysis of what the company valuation. We're going to do a whole video on this. But the point is that Tesla's probably going to have to pivot unless they get very fast uptake and adoption, which goes back to my whole first point, which is, could they have a breakthrough in FSD that could move in the scenario of full self-driving adoption at a very fast pace? It's kind of like the iPhone. Let me kind of give you an example. When the iPhone launched, everybody was kind of, I don't want to, you probably don't remember this, but there was a lot of pushback on just the touchscreen. Remember, people were coming over from the BlackBerry and the Palm Pilot, which was a touch device like this. And there was a lot of pushback on that device, the iPhone. In fact, it was being almost put up as a detriment. If you had an iPhone and a touchscreen, that was a disadvantage to you as a business person because you couldn't use the BlackBerry keyboard. In fact, many people still use BlackBerry because it was just so fast and intricate in how you used it. Old ways of thinking. Now, of course, that's gone. But it ramped up very quickly because of the technology that made iOS so sexy and so usable for the average consumer. And I think that's going to be the case with FSD if they've made a breakthrough. Now let's look at the ranking of concerns here. 81.2% prefer advanced autopilot. That's the one that used to be available on Tesla, is no longer available. You could pay, I think it was $4,000 for it. And basically it did autopilot, but it would handle lane changes, meaning you put your blinker on, car changes lanes, it would handle all the way off to an exit. Slow down, speed up, you change lanes. Basically, it had some features. I think it even had Sentry mode or summon mode in it, where you could summon the car in a parking lot. Number 2 here is 73.9% rank safety as the highest indicator on full self-driving. This is a big deal. They're going to have to solve this problem. And then number 3 was 29.4 will engage. This one scares me because this is where people will really start to say, I'll use it, but 29.4 said they would engage FSD with children in the vehicle. So when you have a small child or any child in a vehicle with you, you drive differently. It just is. It's human nature. You're protective as a species. You're not going to put your kid at risk or anybody else's kid at risk. When you're there by yourself, you're a little different driver, aren't you? Yeah, okay. Well, at FSD, when you get to that point of going, do I engage full self-driving? I'm here in Miami traffic and the kid's in the back seat, in their car seat. Do I do that or not? 30% said they would. That tells me that we don't have full faith in the technology yet. So Elon and Tesla have a lot of work to do here to get us to this next level. So let's move into my last kind of breakdown, which is AI day probabilities. What's going to happen on this day? What's he going to tell us that's going to change the world? Because as you know, he likes to do these world-changing, chest-beating events. And it was no different at Battery Day. He changed the world on Battery Day. So I think this is going to happen here. Breakthrough on AI technology and neural net. I think that's going to be revealed as real. Full Dojo launch. I think he's going to introduce Dojo to the world. It's the Skynet turn-on time. It truly is Skynet being turned on. And FSD, I think he's going to launch it in the US. And I think he's going to let it loose, providing NHTSA gives him the go. And that'll be a big one. This is July. NHTSA may not give him approval for full launch by July, but at least by beta testing, where it is still a beta test, because obviously a consumer can use a beta product. The question is, it will have to meet certain safety regulations with NHTSA to be able to do that. And then I think he's going to release the new model for AIaaS, which is AI as a service, to the new markets that he'll start to identify. And Tesla becomes what it has always been moving to, and that is an AI company. And the master head fake has been completed with what Elon's been doing here. So the head fake is we use cars to collect the data, no different than Google search engines to collect the data on human knowledge. And then you use cars to collect the spatial engineering you need. What's the number one thing you have to do? And driving a vehicle is probably one of the most difficult things to do of the average human that does it every day and is dealing with so many variables in spatial engineering and spatial design that is soaking up the amount of data and putting that into the Tesla databases to pop it into a supercomputer, and Dojo gets ready to do its dance and we have a new world in front of us approaching very fast. All right, so you can look at this two ways. You can look at this as Tesla's getting ready to become what they really are meant to be, and that is an AI company, and this company is going to start selling to government agencies for military use, medical use, for maybe even drug companies for developing algorithms to create new virus scenarios where mRNA would be utilizing technology of something like what Dojo could do, because it's using spatial engineering and testing. I mean, the mind just goes out of this world of where this can go. This thing takes over. If you own Tesla stock, you might be retired in the Caribbean. So you can look at it that way too. All right, so if you're listening over on the podcast, make sure and subscribe if you are there. It's a great, hopefully this is a great, one of those kind of great episodes that you can sit back, kind of listen in and absorb this. For some of our more visuals, you've got to check out the YouTube channel. So jump over to YouTube and just search the Paul Barron Network. And of course, TechPath is right there, along with other shows that we do on the show or on the network there on YouTube. Make sure and subscribe here on YouTube. Refer this out to a friend, and if you like the video, just give us a thumbs up, of course. And of course, if you do have an idea for a show, or you want us to break down something like this on a market mover, we will really dive in deep. I mean, this research, we usually spend about 2 to 3 weeks on it, applying all this, and then kind of dumping in the last minute news and information that we get. Send that idea to producer@revernetworks.com, and you can always hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.